Oh. Yeah. There are two good options. So I'm terrified. Although now it doesn't make sense for anyone else.
That's all I need right now. Okay. Oh, I don't know. I'd like to resume our meeting and announce that has been no action taken by city council in closed session. So with that, I will call to order our regular session. Roll call.
Councilmember Don Calvillo.
Present.
Amara.
Present.
Holmes.
Here.
Sarah Sammons.
Present.
And Mayor Adele Harris.
Here, online.
Thank you.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Am I getting air? I try.
So tonight, our mayor is present, but she's remote, as you can see. So I will be having the pleasure of doing this. So the next we have the mayor's commendation, proclamation, and acknowledgements. The first one is a proclamation for Drive Electric Week. And City Council will begin.
Yes.
Really quickly, before we get started, just a matter of business, because Mayor Riddell Harris is remote this evening, we just need her to disclose if there's any other individuals present in the room with her, 18 years or older. There are not. And all votes tonight will be taken by roll call. And that is all.
Thank you very much.
Shall I begin?
You begin.
All right.
This is National Drive Electric Week.
September 27th through October 6th. Whereas National Drive Electric Week is a nationwide celebration to educate citizens about electric vehicles, to raise awareness of the many benefits of all electric and plug-in hybrids, cars, trucks, and motorcycles, and to promote their adoption. And according to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, petroleum-fueled vehicles are responsible for 28% of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions and are a contributing factor to air pollution and climate change, threatening the health and safety of our citizens and the sustainability of our planet. And
whereas supporting the application of clean energy technology for transportation by using electric and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles will reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and support a healthy environment and economy. And whereas the city of Auburn, California, is dedicated to being a leader in the use of clean energy, establishing policies and programs that conserve energy and promote efficient use of resources. And
whereas the city council appreciates the efforts being made to educate the public on the benefits of moving toward a carbon-free environment by the sponsors organizing a National Drive Electric Week. And
whereas citizens may participate locally by attending the Placer Plug-in Day on Saturday, September 28, 2024 at the First Congregational Church, 710 Auburn Ravine Road in Auburn, California, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. And
now, therefore, I, Rachel Riddell Harris, Mayor of the City of Auburn, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim September 27th to October 6th as Drive Electric Week. And in doing so, call upon the residents of this great city of Auburn to join me in supporting the goals and objectives of this worthwhile effort. Thank you very much.
thank you very much. And I will, do I give the proclamation to?
Mr. Kramer would like to accept this proclamation.
would be
for Drive
great.
Electric
Yeah.
Week.
And she'll sign it later. Thank you. Would you like to say anything in support of it?
Well, we certainly support it and we thank Councilmember Holmes for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Holmes. Thank you. Very important
yes, well,
proclamation.
I should mention that we've got, the city has agreed to have a couple of EV vehicles at this event on the 28th. And I've also contacted a couple of car dealers to see whether they might contribute some of their new cars that are EVs that to be involved in this. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you. Really, I really do appreciate that. We appreciate that, or the city of Auburn. Thank you. So next one is Fire Prevention Week proclamation. And Battalion Chief Matt McCarthy, Captain Justin Rendon, Engineer Alex Layton, are they here? Firefighter Alex Meeks, Firefighter Zachary Sloan. You want to step forward? We will read the proclamation.
Fire Prevention Week. Whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And roughly 3 out of 5 fire deaths happen in homes with either no smoke alarms or with no working smoke alarms.
And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires almost in half. And whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can, alerting you to danger in the event of fire, in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safely. And
And whereas Auburn residents should install smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area, and on every level of the home. And whereas Auburn residents should test smoke alarms at least once a month.
Whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more than likely to survive a fire. And whereas the Auburn Fire Department is dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And
Whereas the 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme, Smoke Alarms Make Them Work for You, serves to remind us the importance of having working smoke alarms in the home. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Rachel Riddell Harris, on behalf of the City Council of the City of Auburn, do hereby declare October 6th through 12th, 2024 as Fire Prevention Week, and urge the City of Auburn residents to make sure their homes have working smoke alarms. Thank you very much.
thank you very much. And if you want to say something, yes.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the proclamation. Just super loud. I just wanted to remind everybody, it's super important to have working smoke detectors in your home. And with that requires regular maintenance. So every time you change your battery or reset your clocks, you need to check your batteries and vacuum your smoke detectors, make sure there's no dust. Typical lifespan for your smoke detector is 10 years or less based on the manufacturer's recommendation, and your CO detectors typical lifespan is 5 to 7 years. So just make sure you check all of your dates so that you have current and up-to-date detectors in your house. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very important information. Thank you. Adoption of the agenda. This is the time set aside for council members and or the public to ask for removal, postponement, or a change to the listed sequence of an agenda item. The agenda will be approved by roll call vote, by roll call of the council. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Do we have any, anyone in the public want a change, postponement, or removal of anything on the agenda? Seeing none?
I will move approval of the agenda as proposed.
Second.
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless persons request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the motion to approve the consent calendar. Anyone from the council have anyone? think of
Yes,
removal?
Madam Mayor, I would like to remove item 5, please.
Okay, item
And Madam Mayor, we need to remove number 4 as well, please.
number 4.
I'd also like to pull item number 3.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much,
Well,
we're getting there.
Do we have any items? Yeah.
And I would like to pull item number 2. So, minutes. Anybody want to pull the minutes?
Wow.
Do I have a motion for? Oh, the public, is there anyone in the public who would like to pull an item?
There's one left.
There's one left.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll move that we adopt the consent agenda as amended to include only item 1.
second.
All in favor? Is this a roll call?
Councilmember Dowden Calvia, Amara.
Aye.
Holmes.
Aye.
Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye.
And I pulled item number 2, appointment to the Economic Development Commission. And I only pulled it because I want to thank everyone who applied and will be on the commission. We have a great list of people here. Thank you, Monique Hall, Candace Heil, Jamie Ross, and Jerry Pickaman. Really appreciate it. So that was the only reason I pulled that. If anybody on the council has anything to say with that in the public, then I by motion approve the appointment to the Economic Development Commission.
Second.
Councilmember Dowden Calvia.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes,
Holmes.
Aye.
Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
thank you. Item number 3, Ms. Sarah Sampson.
Yes, so the last time we had warrants, I had requested a couple of things. One was that the actual warrant list be included in the published agenda, my goodness. And so that was done, so I thank you for doing that. I would like to see maybe a reason or a slight comment as to what the charges were for. I mean, I sit on council, so I can decipher what's probably what, but I'm pretty sure any given member of the general public might not have that information just offhand, so they're kind of guessing. And so I'm just wondering and I don't know what kind of system limitations the reports might have, but if there's anything that can be done to give because we have a what, we have how much, and a who, we just don't have a why. So I was hoping we can get that for future reports.
Just really quickly, Madam Councilwoman, I appreciate your wanting to allow the public to have more information. I will say that, we've been with the warrants, we've been doing this for so long. And that what we've generally done is that, because we do have members of the public that will take a look at them and ask questions, but I think that might be, from staff's perspective, and I'm going to speak on your behalf because I know how time consuming that might be to put in an explanation for every charge. But to just, if people have questions that they could always ask, because I look at the warrants and there's just such a long list, and then to ask that staff go through and put like a little description of each thing.
I think maybe, your question can be answered. I mean, are you doing it for yourself?
No, I
I'm
think
doing it for the public.
for
I
the
mean,
public, it's the public.
We've
which-
had ongoing concerns about transparency in our spending.
Yeah.
And coming from another entity where I sat on the board, I mean, that our reports did have that information, so there wasn't any questions. And I think that would be helpful for the public is why should they have to bother to ask the questions if the answers are already there? It can be simple as just a reimbursement. And if that's what they are, then that's great. But if I don't even know, then, I just think that, if we're going to be wanting to be transparent, I don't see how that's such a huge issue.
I guess that's might be a reasonable request, but I think maybe it'd be fair to just allow them time to talk to staff and see, of course, we haven't let you answer, but it might be appropriate to give them time and maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, if
talk
it's,
about
if
it
it's a
again.
system limitation, I can understand that. But I haven't heard of other entities that have that issue.
Good evening.
Yes.
I appreciate the dialogue. It helps me formulate how best to respond here. So Gretchen Johnson, your finance director. And we have a couple of options with what you're trying to achieve. There is a report. It's not as succinct as what you're used to getting. So it takes a little bit of analysis. It's also compared to the 5 pages I believe you got in this report would be closer to 30, 40 pages. So it's a lot, especially if it's going to be printed. It just adds to that a little bit of the cost. The other options can include using our website, using the finance department's page of the website to post the type of information you're looking at. The nice thing is there is a system report. It's just not very pretty, but it does do what you're trying to achieve. And so I would more recommend throwing something maybe on our website if that's the wish of the council to
Yeah.
do. And
I'm not too concerned about looks. I think information is more the key. So, I mean, I certainly don't want to tax staff. But this is a growing request from a number. It just seems to grow more and more the more we talk about budget and deficits and how do we spend. I think that could also be a good tool to inform the public.
yeah, we're also trying to, over time, be more transparent with our information. And you recently thankfully approved a budget software, and that's part of the transparency process to get more information on our website. It's going to take a couple of years probably to really dive into that, but this could be kind of a first step and see what we get in terms of public feedback and kind of weigh the pros and cons of what type of information we could deliver.
Right. I mean, because there's no confidential information in those reports, so that shouldn't be an issue at all. And yeah, we know there are people that will nitpick, but we also know that, I'd rather have the story and the narrative be there than rather people make up their own. And I certainly don't ask for this for the very next report, but if it's something that can be looked into, I would really appreciate it. And so would many members of the public that have been asking me about it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any input from the public on item number 3, approval of the warrants? And so with that,
I had something really quick, just for clarification. So I'm fine with us getting the information and putting it online. I don't think it needs to be all the details in the agenda. Is that where we landed? Is that we're just going to have the details in the agenda saying that it's posted on the website, and then people, if they want more details, can go there? Is that where you landed on that?
that's a good question. Is that how you
That is
interpret it?
reasonable. Just
It would be at the pleasure of the council how you'd like to see these reports. I believe they're emailed out as well by Christina on the team. So we could keep doing that as well as post it to the website and not
If-
have attachment in the packet. We could go either way. It's really,
If the goal is to have transparency for people to be able to view it, then I think that web-based versus putting it all in the packet would be, I mean, like the summary is still fine in the packet. I just don't want the 40 pages worth of detailed notes.
Right.
That, yeah.
That's totally fine.
okay, we can do that.
So is that going to take you a lot of extra time to add to each item? Or did we
luckily
land on that, or did we just say you're going to post it other places and people can call?
Luckily, there's a system generated report, which has a very small description.
Oh, okay.
It does get truncated if there's a long description, but at least there's something there to add
Okay.
a little bit of context.
Great.
so there's not going to be any additional staff time then. And then if we just put it online, then anyone can access it anyhow or anytime. And, so that's fine. If it's online, if it's already in the system, and then if it is truncated or what have you, someone can always contact you and ask for even more information.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Great, good. Thank you.
Okay.
And I think I asked any public comment on this matter? Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion? Approval of the warrants?
I'll move by resolution that we approve the accounts payable warrants from June 2024 to August 2024.
Second.
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Sierra Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Hi.
And the next item is an employment agreement for the interim chief of police, city manager.
Yeah, thank you. Whoa, what that is, Madam Vice Mayor. So in your packet today, staff report and the draft employment agreement for our future interim chief of police, Ted Steck. Ted is actually here. So I wanted to pull this so we could just introduce him, introduce himself to the council, but then also we're required under law to provide a specific detailing of the cost of the agreement. So I'm going to do that quickly. Under the government code section 21221H, CalPERS retired annuitant can provide temporary specialized services during the recruitment process for a permanent appointment up to 960 hours per fiscal year. And the compensation for those services is based on the existing salary schedule for the position, adjusted to an hourly rate. So the attached agreement in the staff report outlines the terms for Mr. Stack's interim appointment, including an hourly rate of $97.57 with a maximum of 960 hours within the fiscal year, for a total cost, if we use the full 960 hours, of $93,667. So there's that piece. Ted was actually recommended by former interim city manager here, Joan Philippe, who was the interim city manager in Nevada City before she came here. And Mr. Steck was the interim chief of police in Nevada City, working with her. He was also recommended by outgoing chief of police Ryan Canan separately, without both of them knowing that they recommended the same guy to me, which was ironic. And so Ted and I have had a couple conversations. I think he's going to do a great job for the city. And so I'll turn it over to you, and you can introduce yourself to council.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Thank you, City Manager. I really appreciate the invitation to participate tonight, and very eager to get started. Also, the kind words over the last few weeks and the encouragement, very nice. So I am eager to get started to fill that gap in leadership. It's a necessity. And also very excited to meet each and every one of the employees, have a nice casual conversation with each one at the police department, and simply just to see how I can help and move everything forward. We want to keep everything going forward, of course, in the right direction. So very excited. I'd like to introduce my wife, though. She is here. So Dawn, could you raise your hand? You'll see her back there. So she usually attends most council meetings with me over the last decade or so. It's fun. Some people don't think it's fun, but we do. And I understand. And so, yeah, she's seated right behind Josephine Hodges, who I think, well, for sure you'll recognize as one of your dispatchers. And Josephine and I work together at Nevada City. And Josephine, I truly appreciate your attendance here. Very nice of you to come. So anyway, once again, I'm thrilled. I can't wait to get to know all of you as well. And we'll get a lot of work done in this short period of time.
Thank you. We're just thrilled to have you, and very happy that you accepted the position, the interim. Thank you.
Interim.
Interim,
position.
yes, it is my pleasure.
Yes.
I enjoy it. Glad to help.
For
Well, welcome.
960 hours.
Yes.
Yes. Well, so, okay. So with that being said, is there any public comment on this matter? City council comment? And so do we have a motion?
I'll move by resolution to approve an employment agreement for interim chief of police services.
I'll second.
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Sierra Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you soon.
Bolo approves.
Okay, item number 5, the 24-25 street overlay project, award of the contract, Alice. or-
Yes, thank you
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much. I just asked that we remove this because I wanted to tell Menjel how much I appreciate the fact that we're not using any general funds. And when you initially talked about this, there was the proposed utilization of some general fund monies for the overlay project, which normally we do utilize, but because we're in the situation that we are, it's really nice that we don't have to. So it appears you were able to find a little bit more in the two special funds, the transportation fund and the gas fund, correct?
That is correct.
So thank you very much for doing your due diligence and doing that. That frees up, $50,000 to $100,000 for something else. So thank you very much, Menjel.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I want to add one thing. So my understanding, it's my due.
Correct. Maidu, Sherlin Track, small portion of Gum Lane and Marion Way.
So my due, the one in front of Sky Ridge that everybody's been complaining about, will actually.
From Berlin
Berlin?
to, Berlin, Berlin to Auburn Folsom. Yes. So
Great.
that portion.
Fantastic. That's great. I've had a lot of people ask about that. And then also, I think someone in our audience will be happy. She rides her bicycle on Gum Lane a lot, Kelly's Davis. So
Whom?
Kelly Davis.
I've not heard of her.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, people that ride their bike, because you can't really drive a car there because they have the post. So,
Yeah.
right,
And
right?
sometimes it's
Gum
open
Lane.
for when there's.
No, they have a-
parades?
So that portion of the roadway is a city easement and we've intended to pave it since 2020 and COVID happened and things changed but we're finally found the funds to
And I do
finally
want
do
to
it.
add one thing about that. My dad was on planning commission, Nat Giuliani, and they named it Gum Lane after Sheriff Gum. He used to tell me all the time. So.
I was going to mention
Gum
that.
Lane, Sheriff Gum. So anyway, happy we're doing that.
It's
So,
Short.
very short.
Very short.
so do we have any more input from city council on this matter? The public? Do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move by resolution that we authorize the city manager to execute a construction agreement plus contingency with All Phase Construction for 2024-25 street overlay project in an amount not to exceed, including the 10% contingency, $816,625.70.
Second.
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Public comment. This is a time provided so that the public may speak to the council on any item not on this agenda. Please make your comments as brief as possible, not to exceed 3 minutes. The council cannot act on items not included on this agenda. Items may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Public comment from city council?
Oh, I did want to mention just another little piece of information for the plug-in day. Lunch will be served between, I believe it's 12 and 1 o'clock during the event, served probably by Auburn Kiwanis.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there is lunch.
Nice.
Thank you very much. And public, state your name and all that.
Hello, council members. I'm Michelle Tuggle, and I am the new interim CEO for the Auburn Chamber of Commerce, hopefully to be the permanent CEO. So I just wanted to come and introduce myself. I have been watching online for a while, but I wanted to come down and just let you know a couple things about the chamber that we've been doing. We had Eggs and Issues last week, and I want to thank all of our candidates that came out to speak and all the public that came out. It was a great forum. And coming up, we have the Celebrate the Community Awards Dinner on October 3rd at Gold Hill Gardens. And if you would like an invitation, I have some with me. Let me know. It is on our website. And this is where we award all the fabulous volunteers that make this town run. We have the McCann Award, which will be coming out, I think, tomorrow in the Journal, big announcement. And also just a city award and a county award. And it's a really special evening. So we invite everyone to come out. And I think that's about it.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Appreciate it. Any other public comment?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Oh, okay.
I just want, I've mentioned this before, but I've been doing a rather subdued observation of traffic in Auburn. And I'm really kind of concerned about the lack of people making turns without signaling that they're turning in advance, whether they're actually turning into another street or even changing lanes. And I'd like to, I don't think this is something for our new chief of police or interim chief of police to go after, but it seems to me that we need more people alerted to that. And also, I just want to mention that with the election coming up, there are about 9,000 registered voters in the city of Auburn. And so there'll be more campaigning that's going on. You've probably seen a lot of signs around already, but just to remind you that in November, we've got the election coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other public comment from the public or council? Okay, thank you. Then we will go on to item number 6, which is authorization to execute an energy service contract with Schneider Electric and environmental determination. This is a public hearing open to the public, and there'll be a presentation by staff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Tonight, staff brings before you the consideration for authorization to execute an energy services contract with Schneider Electric, along with the environmental determination for the proposed project. Before we delve into staff's report, I want to clarify that the contract document circulated contained an error indicating that the project ceiling was $13 million. The correct amount is $12 million, and the city attorney has amended the document accordingly. Additionally, due to the timing of this report, an updated tentative timeline has been prepared, and a copy has been placed on the dais for your review. Furthermore, all legal requirements have been met, and the public hearing notice included in the staff report was published in the Auburn Journal on September 7th, as well as September 11th. Staff has been working on integrating an energy efficient solution across the city-owned facilities as directed by City Council. Following a directive from September 11th, 2023, City Council meeting, an RFP was issued on October 27th, seeking proposals for energy services companies to conduct a citywide audit and implement cost-saving and energy-saving measures. 4 proposals were ultimately received on December 1st, 2023 from Viola, Siemens, Centrica, and Schneider Electric, with Schneider's proposal being the one that most closely aligns with what the city's requirements are. On February 12th of 2024, the City Council authorized negotiations with Schneider Electric for a contract under the California Government Code 4217 and subsection 10 through 18, covering the audit, design, construction, and energy for the projects within the city's facilities. After months of finalizing the contract details, staff is confident that Schneider Electric has the ability to deliver the project and sees them as the best long-term energy partner, given their top global ranking amongst ESCOs and successful track record with projects throughout California, and more importantly, some local projects, including one with Placer County. With that, I return to the council.
Thank you. So is there no other presentation that you're the one doing it? Schneider's not here.
The only difference this evening, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, is everything you've seen thus far. The difference between the last meeting and this one is that this has been publicly noticed for the public hearing. There's no difference to the contract. All the information remains the same. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but.
No, perfect. I'm just following my list. Then public testimony is the next in order. So is that when the public has an opportunity to speak on the contract? If there's anyone from the public, council will be discussing this at the very, about 3 more down. So anyway, so anybody from the public?
On Kramer Sustainability, we wholeheartedly support the efforts, and we are thankful for staff for negotiating the contract for council to consider this. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other comment? Okay, then I don't think you need to rebut that. So we'll move on to.
I can if you would like.
We will close the public hearing. Closing. And now council comments and questions.
I have some questions.
Go ahead.
Madam
Yes.
Vice Mayor. So thank you very much. I did have an opportunity to speak with our city manager earlier and ask some questions that we're able to get answers to. So I appreciate that. I think that there are a couple of changes though, Menjel, to the contract. The initial contract stipulated a $13 million not to exceed, but we've changed it to 12 million to be consistent with our action. And then I received this anticipated project timeline. Thank you. The attachment in the packet was a little bit, I think, outdated. but I still am not clear on the audit timeline. The anticipated project timeline says that, the cities to review the project scope for final direction. Is the project scope the audit timeline, or is that supposed to be the design? So there, and I appreciate that there are many levels to the contract and, but I just wanted to understand what exactly project scope, because, and if it's not the audit, when can we expect the audit itself? Because the audit's going to tell us the financial piece. And then, the way the contract is worded, the audit, and then there's, I think we have like 60 days once the audit comes in to take action, and then to the design phase. And then there's 60 days once we get the design to go to the construction, et cetera, et cetera. So when can we get that audit?
Yeah, so the next meeting, hopefully October 28th, should this timeline remain the same?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. October?
October 28th.
Okay.
So the project scope really means audit?
What it means is that we're going to look at everything, right? And we're going to bring it to the council on the 28th. And the 28th, the council is then going to decide what the audit is going on right now. What the scope is going to be determined by the council at the 28th meeting. So we're going to bring everything to you. That a la carte list that we were once talking about. And then that final scope, I anticipate the council is going to shrink that down somewhat. And so we'd like to see this portion, eliminate this portion. And at that meeting, you'll be able to determine what the project looks like.
So I'm confused because when I look at the contract itself, starting on page 70 of the packet, it goes through and there's an audit phase, a design phase, there's a construction phase. And with each phase is the opportunity to terminate. On the audit phase, it says within 60 days of submission of the audit report, the council shall either terminate the agreement pursuant to the language below or execute the design phase. And once the design phase is executed, then we have 60 days to review the design phase to determine which projects we want to move forward. So it sounds like you're saying that the audit and the design are going to come at the same time, because that's not the way it's stipulated in the contracts. I'm just trying to understand.
So the wording is very unique based off of kind of what this is. So the audit phase, for all intents and purposes, has been ongoing since we've met with Schneider. So we've kind of delved into all of these facilities, including the room that we're in. The next phase is the design phase, really. So they're designing the project around all of these things that we've audited.
But I'm sorry, I'm going to keep belaboring this, because when we talked about this last time about, it's important that this be either budget positive or budget neutral. And there was this whole discussion about how the audit was going to be a more in-depth document. It was
Yes.
going to really tell us what the costs were going to be. And so I appreciate that that's been kind of ongoing a little bit, but this is really what executes it, because we could terminate when the audit comes out. And so we could terminate when the design phase comes out too, but there's a fee associated with that. You have to pay a fee. So I'm just trying to, understand. It sounds like what you're saying is audit and design are going to come at the same time, but it's not stipulated that way in the.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, yes. So the audit, because the audit's been kind of ongoing, you're going to see the culmination of the data from the audit on the 28th, which is going to be the totality of everything, which we will call the scoping, right? Then the city council will then shrink that down or expand upon it, depending on how you see fit.
So why doesn't the contract reflect that then, with all due respect? Am I not reading this correctly, Mr. City Attorney? I mean, I see here Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, and it very clearly lays out, there's an audit phase, within 68 days, action has to be taken, then there's a design phase. And so if we're going to move under the, the auspices of it being one phase, then it should be reflected that way in the contract. No?
Yeah, and we may need to ask for a new exhibit with the timeline. So the way the agreement is currently drafted is that Exhibit B, which currently has an outdated timeline, this is a revised one, we might need an updated one, gives the timeline for when that audit will be submitted. And you're correct, the agreement envisions that there will be an audit report, a physical report that is delivered.
Before we move to design. So that's my concern, is that we need to have that audit first, and then we have 60 days to decide if we want to move forward with the design.
That's correct.
So we won't have that scope on October 28th because the project scope would include the design, correct? That's what it sounds like.
Yes, yes.
Sorry,
No. It's
I just want to, I mean,
contract language.
yes, and there's
So-
so much money that we have to just be super clear. And, you
So
know.
based on what you're asking, it sounds like we need to add a second meeting to bring this to council in this timeline. What we can do on the 28th is bring the totality of the audit to council, and then you have the 60 days to then determine what you want to do. And then, once you determine what that is, we can then scope the project.
Yes, because that's the scoping of it occurs after the audit and then
Correct.
we'll have a discussion when we see those final numbers, you know, what we want to do, if we
Correct.
want to proceed or not. And
Yeah,
we
so
can
to-
terminate at that phase. But if it looks like, you know, it's going to be beneficial, then we can say, okay, let's just say there's 10 different projects. This is completely arbitrary number. And we want to move forward with 8, then we're going to move forward with 8 on the design for those 8, not for the design of 10.
Correct.
So, because it doesn't make much sense to say, let's do a design phase without knowing, you know, the council may not want to move forward with all 10 or 20 or whatever it is, you know,
Correct.
based on that financial information. So,
But that wouldn't affect the contract here tonight, would it?
well, the
would it,
exhibit is,
City attorney, oh, just the exhibit.
the exhibit is wrong.
But we can still approve the contract and amend the exhibits?
So if there's enough information, Menjel might know now on when that audit will be available or when it is realistic to require that, then I would say let's amend this as the Exhibit B and put that in and to replace what is currently in Exhibit B, and then you could still proceed tonight to approve it. If we don't have that information, then we'll have to discuss other options.
So,
So on the 28th, I would say we will have all the information for the audit. I'm confident in that because we've been working with Schneider Electric. So
So
there's,
October 28th, the city would to review, this one, that right
Right.
here. That would be the audit to
it says October 28th.
yeah, so to substitute project scope with audit.
correct. And then the scope can come at some later date, either in November or we can do that in January. It's at the council's pleasure, but I would say the second meeting in November would make the most sense.
I just
So
feel like, go
The,
ahead, Mr. City
the
Manager.
November, the first meeting in November is Veterans Day. The second meeting is week of Thanksgiving. So we would have to have a special meeting in there probably on the 18th is what we've talked about internally. If we're going to end up doing a meeting in November, it has to be a special meeting. I think that in talking to the city attorney, as long as we believe that we'll be able to get the audit back to council on the meeting for October 28th, we should be okay to continue to move forward with the contract, knowing that once that's submitted, council reviews, gives direction to staff, bring back the actual design of the project for council approval, I guess,
So-
November 18th.
And
Or
I'm
it could
confident
be-
we could make that date of the 28th just because this has been an ongoing effort to do.
Yeah, and that makes sense because October 28th is when you're going to have everything. So I can't imagine you couldn't have just the audit because you're actually going to have.
Correct.
But I just want to make it clear, though, that we're looking to have a special meeting in November so at the October 28th meeting, the council's going to say yay or nay to all or none or some. And then the design phase is done. And then you're thinking that the design will come back to us in November? I mean, that's not a lot of time for them. I don't know what they can do or what they can't do. I don't.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry, since I work on this stuff. Madam Vice Mayor, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Just because this is what I do in my day job. The hard part about looking at an audit and trying to make decisions, remember how they kind of gave us our, like, if you put these ones together, you get a certain cost benefit. And if you put these ones together, you get a different cost benefit. If we try to take an audit and look at each of the measures individually, ones that like HVAC may not make cost-effective sense by themselves, but they do make sense when you put them together with solar. And it's important to put measures together to make the overall cost-benefit analysis make sense. So I don't think I worry about just having the audit and not having any kind of design or analysis or recommendation from the third-party contractor and us making decisions based on that, because we need to see what the cost effectiveness levels look like when the measures are put together and not just look at each of them individually in the audit, or else we won't really get to see the full picture of what makes the most sense to do as a city.
And
So that would be the November meeting.
but I
But
appreciate.
I just, on the audit, I don't want to make decisions. We can get the audit, but I just don't want to make decisions based on the audit alone.
Right.
But the contract stipulates that. So that's why I'm going by what's in the contract, and that's why I'm separating them out. Because this is what the contract says. If we're going to do something different, then the contract needs to reflect the
Well-
actual process we'll utilize.
Yeah, you get an audit, but then after you get the audit and you accept it, then you still have them do the design and the recommendation based on the audit. And then in that design, the ones that don't make sense kind of fall out and you get the portfolio of what you should do is normally how it works when you're doing that design phase.
And,
And
and that's absolutely correct.
And I appreciate that, but I'm just saying, in the contract, it does say that when the audit comes out, then we have these options. And
Yes,
so
we-
that's all. But I appreciate what our mayor is saying, but I'm also saying this is what the contract stipulates. And so we can certainly make those arguments when, when we get the audit and we can, I appreciate too, and I understand that you taking things piecemeal and it doesn't, if you take this off, it doesn't make it cost effective for everything else. I get all of that. I understand that. But again, I'm just going by what's in this contract.
And
so-
you're absolutely correct. And I think the very important thing to take away from this, the very next step is to bring the audit to the council. So.
Yeah, so we'll
we're-
get the audit and then we can make our determination if we're going to move into the design phase. And we'll have those discussions and Madam Mayor will have the opportunity, if somebody does want to pull something out and it's going to mess things up, we'll be able to have that discussion and your points will be made at that point in time, because it would be very appropriate. And I do understand what you're saying.
Okay.
It's following the terms of the contract. So if we get the contract if we get the audit on October 28th meeting, then we'll make a decision, because it may be that it doesn't pencil out and we don't decide to move forward. That's one of the things that I can support in this contract, is that there are these opportunities to terminate at any time. Everything is very clearly spelled out. And that's really important to me, because again, this is a contract that potentially could cost $12 million. And so having those roadmaps is really important. And I'm glad they're here.
Yeah,
So
but I think we also have to, remind ourselves that, there will be a cost savings, so it won't be
well,
out
I
of.
want to see, I
out
mean,
of pocket.
absolutely, it has to be budget positive or budget neutral. We all agree that.
And I think our city manager.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I'm assuming that Schneider, during the audit portion, the presentation to council on the 28th of August or October, will be able to say, you need to bundle this and this in order for it to be financially
Cost
viable,
effective.
right? They'll be able to do that. So they're almost doing the design ahead of
Mhm.
them, of giving them direction to do that. But because of the work that they've already done, they're basically
There.
have engineering done, but they've got that scope figured out already based on the audit that's already been finished.
So the audit comes out in October, then we would have a special meeting in November to discuss the design phase, should we move forward in October.
And I
then-
think we need to be careful about saying if it's going to be a special meeting in November or push it to December, because
Okay,
I don't
so-
know how long it's going to take them to get that work
So
done.
we'll just say November or December.
Right.
I just want to have something on the books because it's an exhibit to a contract and I
Yeah.
just don't like things to be open. So we'll say November, December. Okay, so November, December, we'll get the design portfolio is what it's called. Design portfolio. Okay, so then is the idea, then once the design portfolio, we go through all of that, decide what we're going to move forward in, then we move to the construction phase. And so is the thought that we would do that in January, to the January 27th meeting?
Yep.
Well,
Staff?
that's
That's the
just
scope.
council approval.
Yeah.
Well, we're changing all that language. Project scope is,
Oh, this will be construction.
I don't know. I'm asking staff.
No, that's the approval. At the January 27th meeting, it would still remain the same. It would just be the final approval of the project. And then the construction phase would come at the next step, which could be in spring or summer of 2025.
Okay, so January 27th would be the,
Final review.
Final approval of
Final-
the design.
but then what are we doing in November, December? That's the design.
Yes.
Okay. So then the next phase in the contract is construction phase. And so that's a separate document that would be coming to us. The project, timeline, scope of work.
So the final approval, the
scope of
final
so
approval,
the scope of construction work. That's what's going to be done at the January meeting?
Correct.
Okay, so that's going to be called, I'm just using the language in the contract, scope of construction work. Scope of construction work. So that's earmarked for that January meeting. And then actual construction. And it's okay. All right. So just for everyone's benefit here, the October 28th meeting, the intent is to have the audit, the audit report. And then we'll have a meeting probably in November or December to discuss the design portfolio. And then if we move forward, the scope of construction would be January 27th.
Correct.
Is that it? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And again, I just was trying, I want to make sure that everything is tracking with the contract and the timeline. And so we're clear because they are separate. And I just want to make sure. Okay. The other question that I had, let's see. Just with regards to the new language in the contract, which I appreciate, with regards to the NEM, the completion of construction work submitted, subject to net metering 2.0 for NEM. I spoke with our legal counsel about that, and I wanted just to make sure that it was clear that this is predicated upon the council's approval of this work, that we're not automatically approving that. And so, Mr. Attorney, you had some language.
That's right. And so we're referring to new section 3.3.4, which is the red line in the revised draft that was provided to council and is also available here to anyone else in the public who would like a copy during this meeting. That section requires that certain work be done that was included in the city's NEM 2.0 application for specific city-owned facilities, that it be completed by April 15th, 2026, which is what's required under those rules and by the city's application. So in response to Councilmember Dowden Calvillo, her request, one additional change to that. So at the beginning of that paragraph, we would suggest adding if a construction phase notice to proceed is issued, comma, and then all the other same language there. And the intent is the way that this section works, just like the other sections.
I'm sorry, where are you on that?
Section 3.3.4.
I have that. Where's the if? Oh,
And we're going to add it.
in front of,
All.
oh, if all solar, okay.
If a construction, what do we call it?
If all solar related construction work, if solar can relate.
Yes, I'm suggesting that additional language be added to what's in the
Yes.
document right now. And that additional language would start if a construction phase notice to proceed is issued.
Okay, let me write that.
Yeah.
Construction phase notice is issued.
And that's just to make clear that the construction phase doesn't proceed until the city issues that construction phase notice to
Oh,
proceed.
okay.
Yeah.
And so that would include this timeline and this work as well.
Okay.
And the only other suggestion would be at the very end when all these addresses are provided at before it says Fire Station 3 at 901 Auburn Folsom, could we put and slash or? Or
And what?
it says and, I just wanted to put a slash or,
Sure.
Oh,
just for flexibility. So then it's going to start, if a construction phase notice is issued, comma, all solar related construction work to be performed, correct?
Correct.
now, and just on that same note, these sections on delays, this would supersede that.
What page?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
So the section on delays this would supersede that because there's a section that, you know, there can be delays, and it's not their fault and we have to extend and all that.
Mm-hmm. So would you like us to add in something that's notwithstanding any other provision of this agreement? We could do that.
Correct. I would like,
At the end?
yes.
I think we'd start at the beginning.
Okay.
Notwithstanding any other provision of this agreement, comma, if a construction phase notice to proceed is issued, comma, and then the rest.
Yes.
Okay, so notwithstanding. What was it?
Notwithstanding any other provision of this agreement, comma. if a construction phase notice to proceed is issued.
Agreement. Okay, so notwithstanding any other
That's, a-
provision of this agreement, if a construction phase notice is issued, da, 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 da.
Correct.
Okay, notwithstanding any of
Well-
the provisions, I can't even.
wait,
write-
would that go in front of, 333?
Nope, 3.3.4.
Okay, you can,
So it's
Three,
gonna
three,
go right
three is the delay
Okay.
section that would still generally apply, but what we're saying is notwithstanding how you might be excused based on delays, for purposes of this section, you won't be excused.
they won't be excused.
Thank you. And again, the only other comment that I have, Madam Vice Mayor, is just that because this contract does provide for that ability to terminate at any time, and it is step by step by step, then I can support it. At this point in time, there's no commitment for expenditure of dollars. We're just signing a contract so they can proceed to the first phase, which is the audit phase. And we'll just proceed through each phase based on a document that we'll receive and the opportunity to review it and the cost effectiveness of that section. So, thank you.
That's exactly right.
Thank
Good.
you.
Okay, anyone else from the council? Questions, comments, and from the public? And, yeah,
I just have one more question for Menjel. I'm looking through the exhibits here. As part of your direction, we'll need to add a new exhibit D to what's before you tonight. We can do that, but I just wanted to note that and also get that direction from you all.
D?
The audit fee is currently in here as 0. And so I want to confirm that they have agreed to that because that would be
The audit fee is $100,000.
That's the design fee. So let's correct that then. So if you turn over to Exhibit C, which should actually be Exhibit D, it currently says audit fee 0 and design fee 100. So we should correct that before we approve.
where's exhibits?
I like it the way that it's written, Mr. City Attorney.
I don't doubt that. I just don't want to have to come back to you. So if we
But I mean, they're the ones that put this together. So
at an earlier stage, and it's become clear, maybe we should be express about this.
They did talk about that at our last meeting, that there would be a fee if we did the audit and we did not choose to proceed.
I remember that as well.
That's
right. It's C. What it is, so what we have to do is not add a D, it's just amend Exhibit C. Because Exhibit C says audit shall be 0 and the design is 100,000. So there,
But he's saying audit is 100,000,
yes, he's,
right?
See, so here's what I think happened. I think that they have already combined the audit and design phase into a single thing. But that's not how the contract reads and that's not
No.
how we're going to approach. So if they give an audit under as this is written and you don't proceed, it's just because there's a mismatch of what the parties understand
would
that I'm
pay
raising
nothing.
this. So I don't want you to enter into the agreement and then have a dispute later on.
Okay, so it is 100. for the
Well, I guess
audit.
that's the question. It's 100 just for the audit, then what's the design fee?
0.
Design is 0.
Yes.
Audit's 100.
Yeah, they're just reversed because of what you just said, because the two things are happening concurrently. So
they did say, with all due respect, and they did say that
That-
the audit fee was $100,000 because we talked about if we didn't want to proceed
Mhm.
after the audit, that we would be out
I recall
$100,000. So our attorney is correct. But we can just make that amendment on Exhibit C. I don't think we need to add a D.
Well,
Right?
so Exhibit D,
Because the contract refers to C. The contract actually,
Okay.
in the language, it
I only have
refers-
Well,
C. Where's
yeah,
D?
sorry to get into the weeds, but the audit fee in the definitions does refer to
D?
Exhibit D and not to Exhibit.
Oh, my goodness.
So we need to add an exhibit.
So what's Exhibit C then?
That should be the scope of the design work.
Okay, so,
Or we
Exhibit-
might be able to remove it altogether.
so
Do it all together.
in right now, so you're saying the language in here, I need to get my glasses on, refers to D and there's no D. So could we just change it to C?
Yeah, so I think on
Because
um,
C already says both. Otherwise, we have to amend C to take out,
Yeah, so I think what we'll do is remove exhibit C scope of work and then change all references to exhibit D to exhibit C.
To D?
there is no D, right? Because so can we just change the terminology in the contract to refer to exhibit C and then amend exhibit C to say audit fee 100,000 and design fee to be 0? And just change the term in the contract to refer to exhibit C? Otherwise, we're going to have are you saying exhibit C will be one and exhibit D will be the other? I mean,
I think we only need one exhibit there. And I think it will be exhibit C, and I think if you give us direction just to correct those cross references.
okay, so we
can
don't
do it
have
on
to
the back end.
worry about D.
Nope, I think we're taking D out.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, there's no D. Okay, so again.
Apologies for
just
the
this
detour.
is the record, so we're tracking,
Cross
Madam
references.
Vice Mayor, there will be a proposed amendment to Exhibit C to change the audit fee to $100,000 and the design fee to 0. And any reference to either fee throughout the contract shall
Exhibit C.
reflect Exhibit C.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So I think I asked for public comment, and I got the attorney. So,
Correct.
okay. So with that, then, do I have, okay, so now, council questions, now council action. And the action required, there's 2 actions. So one is to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Schneider Electric for energy services at city-owned facilities.
And then we have to.
You want them separate?
Yeah, so,
They were drafted on the same resolution, I believe.
Okay,
yeah. So-
okay.
But
so
we
then-
have so many amendments.
I know, so,
Can I take a
you
stab?
could, go ahead.
Okay, so I will, by resolution, move to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Schneider Electric for energy services at city-owned facilities with amendments to Article 3, to add Section 3.3.4, as discussed, the text plus the 2 additional sentences. Also, the amendment to the proposed project timeline so that the city will be reviewing the audit report at the October 28th meeting. And then we will be reviewing the design portfolio at a November or December meeting and reviewing the scope of construction if we move forward at the January 27th meeting, 2025. And the final amendment would be to the audit phase and design phase of the contracts as they refer to the audit fee and design fee to reflect that Exhibit C, which will be amended to reflect that the audit fee is $100,000 and the design fee is $0.
Very good. And there's another part.
Okay, and to find the energy services project categorically exempt from CEQA per sections 15.301 and 15.306, 15.307, and 15.308.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
You did, thank you.
Roll call?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara,
Yes.
Holmes,
Aye.
Sierra Simmons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, everyone. We're moving forward. Go Auburn. Okay, so the next item on your agenda, council business. So PCTPA presentation, countywide active transportation plan and annual unmet transit needs assessment.
Yes, good evening, Zoom Mayor, good evening, Vice Mayor, good evening, council members. Jonathan Wright, Community and Economic Development Director. I'm sincerely appreciative that my work this evening is much easier than our Public Works Director. He really put in for the time today. But I'm here luckily just to introduce Mike Costa from the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency, who'll be presenting their countywide active transportation plan and annual unmet transit needs assessment. And I'm going to give him quick instructions on the remote clicker here.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, and good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council and public. As Jonathan mentioned, my name is Mike Costa. I'm with the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency. I'm a principal transportation planner there. And tonight I'm going to give you the update on the two projects that Jonathan mentioned, our active transportation plan that we are doing countywide, as well as our annual unmet transit needs process, which many of you may be familiar with. And of course, I'll provide availability to answer any questions you may have after the presentation. Starting with the countywide active transportation plan. Essentially, this is a document that we are preparing for the whole county, which is something we haven't done before. In the past, there have been active transportations plans done at more of the local level, or even sometimes the county itself has embarked on an active transportation plan for the unincorporated areas. But this go around, we are actually doing an ATP, active transportation for short, for the whole county. And that will really help us to ultimately establish a list of prioritized projects. And the projects consist of the modes of walking, biking, and rolling across Placer County that would then enable our region to potentially go after future funds associated with that active transportation plan. So that could include, at the state level, there is an active transportation program that funds projects that come from plans like this. So that's really our goal with this plan. So the graphic before you actually is presenting kind of how this plan is working in tandem with some other active transportation plan efforts that are happening right now. We are directly, PCTPA is preparing the plan for Colfax, Lincoln, Loomis, and Placer County. Here at your local level in Auburn, as well as in Rockland, there is also an active transportation plan being done locally that will integrate into the countywide plan. And then Roseville is preparing an active transportation plan that will also be coordinated with to ultimately integrated with our network and our proposed projects. So a lot of different planning efforts going on, but PCTPA is going to be really collaborating and integrating those plans together across the region. So we have already actually conducted one round of outreach and engagement that occurred back in May/June of this year. We did hold actually some local events here in Auburn, and we did actually have a survey that had over 400 responses in that comment period. And if you do want more public information related to this project or those comments, a summary of them, you can go to the website that's listed on this slide, which is pctpa.net/ATP. So some of the outreach and engagement comments that we received, and this should be really no surprise to many of you, really revolved around the element of safety. Safety along the Auburn-Folsom Road corridor, as well as safety accessing paths and getting to and from Auburn and the Auburn State Recreation Area that's right nearby. There is a general desire to see certain facility improvements where you separate your bike and pedestrian facilities away from the roadway. And again, walking and riding is something that has been coming out in the comments as something that people don't do because of how they view the network right now as being unsafe or not integrated and not continuous. To look at the schedule of our planning process, we did start this effort back in spring of this year. We are looking to wrap up our initial analysis phase in the late fall and hopefully bring forward some recommended projects from the network in early 2025. So thinking about January timeframe. From that period, we'll be working on some additional outreach and engagement to prioritize projects so that ultimately, when we come back in June with this process being finalized, we will have a plan with projects that will be prioritized for investment opportunities moving forward. So with that, I'm going to transition now into our annual unmet transit needs process assessment. This is something that we do at the PCTPA level because as the administrator of Transportation Development Act funds, we are required to do this process for one of those funding sources. And this process really revolves around two things. One is defining and identifying unmet transit needs, and also then looking at whether or not those unmet transit needs are reasonable to meet. Our PCTPA Board of Directors establishes the specific criteria for determining what an unmet transit need is, as well as a criteria and evaluation methodology for then determining if that unmet transit need is reasonable to meet. Reasonable to meet essentially revolves around the premise of, is an unmet transit need something that we could deliver with a service that is sustainable financially, as well as supported with our many different planning documents, as well as general public support for those efforts and services. With our annual unmet needs process, again, this is a cycle that we do every year. This process typically starts in the fall. We do currently have an unmet transit needs survey that is active and available for the public. That launched in early September. It's available on the project website, which is pctpa.net/unmet-transit-needs. And that survey will be available through October 31st. After the 31st of October, staff will receive all of those comments, evaluate those comments based on the criteria that was presented on the previous slide, and then work with our transit operators as well as our local jurisdictions to identify any unmet transit needs, which we will then bring forward to our board with a recommendation in February of whether those unmet transit needs are reasonable to meet. And then, of course, we would allocate funding towards those unmet transit needs if they were determined to be reasonable to meet. So how can you, again, provide comments as members of the public on any potential unmet transit needs? You can go to our project website and take that survey. That survey is actually available in English and Spanish with Tagalog available upon request. You can also email me at my email address, mcosta@pctpa.net. And then, of course, there is an opportunity during public comment period to provide any comments tonight, which I can take into the record as well. It is important to note that even if an unmet need as perceived by a member of the public through their comments is made and it's not determined to be an actual unmet need pursuant to the criteria I established earlier, that is still an important comment for us to hear because it allows our transit operators to look at their operations. It allows them to evaluate ways in which they can improve operations outside of this process. So there's the formality of this process, but there's also the functionality of improving services regardless of whether or not needs are determined to be unmet and reasonable to meet. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have or the public may have about these two projects. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Council, do we have any questions or comments?
I just wanted to say that I'm really pleased that we're doing this. I am the city's representative on PCTPA, so I'm maybe a little bit more involved than others, but you know, it's good to see this. Like you said, it's the first time we've really done this in Placer County, so good use of time for sure.
And Mayor, do you have any questions?
I do. I have two quick ones, if that's okay.
Sure.
First one is, I guess it's for PCTPA and also maybe for our planning director, Jonathan Wright. I know that I'm starting to get survey fatigue with all of the surveys we're doing between the general plan and our transportation, and then we have PCTPA and others that are doing. Is there any worry that we're not getting the feedback that we need because of that, the amount of surveying that's going on right now? And is there any attempt to consolidate or share information so we don't have quite so many surveys? I know we're surveying on multiple things. I get Facebook messages all the time about different agencies that are all surveying Auburn folks at the same time.
I'll start. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for that question and comment. It is something that at least at the PCTPA level, we're really cognizant of. We do have a lot of active planning processes, not just at our county-wide level, but also at the local level. And so it's something that when we try to do our outreach and engagement, we do coordinate with our local jurisdictions and partners to determine if there are any opportunities to coordinate those survey efforts or as well as those outreach and engagement efforts. You will see usually PCTPA staff, when we're promoting our efforts, we're doing so at city events and local events that are being held. And then in terms of that survey fatigue, yes, if there are opportunities for our survey or say a local survey to capture the information and data that we're looking from to get from the public, we will look at ways in which we can consolidate those efforts so that it's maybe one survey versus two.
Yes, good evening, Mayor. It's very difficult because we do have so many different processes going. Like you said, there's so many surveys going, but none of those timeframes are right now aligning with each other that would make it an opportunity to consolidate those. And even when you consolidate it, then there's the chance for people not understanding what the two pieces are that you're trying to do. I think we've been very effective in going out to the community. We are on our third face-to-face outreach with the general plan. And we've touched, this last time we probably talked to about 200 some odd people. We got 100 comments just this last week. So we're there to answer questions. We're doing the best we can because people do have those questions like what's the difference between this and that. We've had a number of public meetings recently on, say, the form-based code and really trying to distinguish that from the general plan effort. So we've been out there talking to people face to face and getting as much information as we can. It's unfortunate we just have so many things that we need to get done and they're all just kind of culminating at the same time here, but none of them are on great paths to align. And even with aligning our efforts with PCTPA, our active transportation plan, which we got through the SS4, is behind theirs. So while they're pushing that out, our outreach is not going to start for some time yet. So stay tuned for more surveys.
Thank you. The second question was around the unmet need. I brought this up before, but we found part of the unmet need when we had our on-demand transit in Auburn, that then we had North Auburn people really trying to utilize it because they really needed that in order to get to hospital appointments and to get to school and other things like that. Do you look at others that are serving the need that's needed to be met other than doing those surveys to figure out what that unmet need is? How do you get that need from other agencies that are filling it that shouldn't be, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the way that we typically do that is we do have about a monthly coordination meeting with all of the transit operators, as well as some regional social service transportation providers and agencies that work in transportation programs. And so we meet with that group. It's called our Transit Operators Working Group, and it actually has members of our local jurisdictions that don't even operate transit on that group. And so we do collaborate on collective transit needs or transportation issues, and we can look at some of those cross-jurisdictional needs that happen. In the case of North Auburn, I know there is some extensive collaboration between your local transit operator, Auburn Transit and Auburn On Demand, and our partners at Placer County Transit, who also offer coverage of the North Auburn area. And that's something we've been looking at as part of our comprehensive operational analysis. And you will actually see that probably in an upcoming council presentation in the next month. But that's something, again, that we do look at, that cross-jurisdictional need, as well as cross-jurisdictional services and solutions provided by other partners.
Okay, thank you so much. I actually have, one more quick one. We had some issues in the past where an identified safe route to school was put along Highway 49 as a bike lane, and that no one considers that a safe route to school. Is there any effort to actually make real safe routes to school that kids could actually utilize in order to get to schools?
So we are, PCTPA is actually working outside of the active transportation plan, which could look at elements of safety that you just mentioned. We are actually working on a Highway 49 improvement project that is looking at filling in some of the gaps in our sidewalk and pedestrian network along Highway 49, both starting here in Auburn and going all the way out to the outskirts of North Auburn, close to the county line. So that's something that we're looking at as part of that project. I don't have the details with me right now, but it is something, if there are very clear areas of safety issues along Highway 49 or any other areas of Auburn and North Auburn that this council or members of the public want to bring to our attention, there is opportunity in our outreach and engagement period for our active transportation plan to identify those issues so that we can look at them as part of the countywide ATP.
Okay, well then I would appreciate if you took back that a bike lane on 49 is not safe. And that we would love it if there was another way for bikers to get around town.
And I second that. We've been saying that, and we're talking about really right in front of Evie Kane, or the old Evie Kane. Now it's a K8. So it's important. There's just a stripe, and so it's just not a safe It's even unsafe for them to cross, really, but.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, if I may expand too, we have a significant amount of money, I think even more than what PCTPA has for their plan to do our active transportation plan. So we do have the capacity to really start to address some of those things and find some data to figure out what the best alternatives are. So we will all work together on this, but we have significant capacity right now with Fair and Peers, who's our consultant. We just got a
Okay.
kickoff meeting with.
Well, I'm glad that that was brought up because we've always been told it's Caltrans and there's nothing we can do locally. And so it sounds like we can. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation.
And then my question is, on your timeline, I see the black. So does that mean, so you said you'd start come with plans at the beginning of 2025, but I see it's stakeholder engagement still through March. Then I see demand analysis in January, identity network. Does that mean specific plans?
Yeah, so I think it's what you're looking at, and I apologize for the unclarity of the graphic, but essentially I would say by January, the initial ideas of projects and concepts will come forward. But then there will be several months of looking at those projects, looking at the feasibility of those projects, and then identifying the prioritization of those projects. That will occur after January, which is where you see kind of that planning and implementation phase.
And then the final plan will be not until July of 2025
That's correct.
at the outermost. It could be earlier than that.
That's correct.
Okay. And then you said there's opportunities once this is completed through the state to get grants and so is there still a lot of opportunity with the understanding the state is having some difficulties? Is there?
That's a very good question, and we are consistently and constantly looking at that matter. As of right now, there are still key specific programs like the statewide active transportation program or ATP program that provide dedicated sources of funding. It's through the Safe Routes to School federal funding program, just administered at the statewide level, for projects that deal with bicycle and pedestrian safety in communities. That is still funding, again, that flows through the federal government into the state and then flows through the state to local jurisdictions. It is a competitive program. I don't foresee that going away anytime soon unless there are some significant changes to legislation, but that program's been around for a long time. In terms of other sources of active bike and pedestrian planning, that comes from what's called Senate Bill 1 funding, which is gas tax money.
Yes.
Again, I don't foresee that going away anytime soon. However, as EV technology continues to come through the market and more cars convert over to EV, that source of funding is not as effective as it used to be. So it's hard to say how much funding will be ultimately available for active transportation projects, but I do believe there will always be something moving forward in the foreseeable future.
And is the county, I know the city's trying to put aside money. Is the county putting aside money for this, or do they have financial means to implement some of these outcomes?
I would say, without speaking on behalf of the county, that this plan and project will pull out that information and we will be able to see what resources our partners at the county as well as our local jurisdictions have dedicated towards active bike and pedestrian planning and projects. But then there will also be probably a needs assessment of where's that gap and where does the county and local jurisdictions need to go to get that funding. So I don't have that answer, but I would think that out of this process, that answer will be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, my concern is that, and I know, you know, we're on a timeline. I wish there was a faster way of doing it. Just ask a city manager. I'm always rushing him. But my concern is funding will go away and it just be another plan that we have and we can't implement because of the time and things have changed. So, yeah, you give me some assurance. I appreciate that. So the plan is if the county or the city or we don't have funding, then we can go after other grants, and that's kind of what they look at and important pieces.
Yes.
So, but that still could be that process alone. Then if this is done, you know, late July of 2025, then that process is, you're another year out. So,
yeah,
anyway, or two. Okay. Unless you see a speedier way of doing it.
I would say that, you know, even without the full completion of the plan by January, we should have some initial ideas of project concepts and project needs and gap needs of where finance is required because local jurisdictions might not have everything to fulfill their project wish list. So I would say that through this process, there will be probably information pieces that we could use to still go after funding as it becomes available through the normal cycles of, say, active transportation program or other sources of funding.
Oh, great. Good. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do appreciate your hard work and I appreciate this plan. This is wonderful. Hopefully it'll come to fruition. And Councilman Holmes has a question.
Yes, well, you've mentioned several areas that bicycles and so forth, but have there been any significant other unmet transit needs that have already been realized that you're already starting to work on?
So we, in terms of official unmet transit needs, I will say the latest example of something that was determined to be an unmet transit need that was then determined to be reasonable to meet was when back in 2018, PCTPA board acknowledged that for our local jurisdictions that provide transit services, in this case, it was between the cities of Loomis, Rockland, and Lincoln, for passengers with Americans with Disabilities Act qualified passengers, there was a determination that those types of passengers that qualified under ADA requirements, that they get a one-seat ride across jurisdictions. Whereas if you were not an ADA eligible passenger, you would have to transfer at each border of each city to then get from one bus, transfer to another, then transfer to another to get across that same region. So that was, again, a determination by the board that for ADA eligible passengers, they get a one-seat ride across the region to, of course, assist with their travel needs. So that was the latest example of an unmet transit need. That was the most current one, but I will say again, a lot of unmet transit needs that we receive as comments that are not ultimately determined to be unmet transit needs that are reasonable to meet by the definitions I showed you, those still come into play when we're looking at improving regional operations and regional transit functions, including what we're doing right now with our partners at Auburn to improve transit services between Auburn Transit and Placer County Transit. So that's why we still value a lot of these comments, because even if they aren't officially unmet transit needs, they still come into play as we improve operations among our regional transit partners.
Well, since you mentioned the ADA issue, I've been following what's going on in Sacramento with their train service, that they've got a whole new train system that people who are not able to step up or, who have ADA problems, that there's a significant amount of work that's done on that. And I'm wondering, of all our transit buses and so forth, whether that's going to be a problem that we have to modify them or get new vehicles.
Typically, and I'd let Menjel answer this question too if he feels the need to. Typically buses, especially ones operated by public transit agencies, they are certified or contain components that are ADA accessible for members of the public. That's usually a requirement when the buses are purchased based on the funding that goes to those transit operators. So I don't necessarily see a need in that area. Now, in terms of stops, bus stops, there is some, I'd say, leniency for grandfathering in infrastructure. If you are building new bus stops and bus pads and transit stations, of course, you have to build them to meet ADA requirements. However, if they are existing facilities, then unless you're making improvements to those facilities, you usually don't have to improve them unless it's at your own discretion. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you.
One last thing, it jogged my memory, my question here. Are we taking into consideration also, I think one of the best resources for determining unmet needs is injuries, accidents, fatalities. I know 49 has had their share of pedestrian and bike issues in that regard. Is all that also taken into consideration when we're trying to determine unmet needs?
So sometimes if we're looking at operational needs related to safety, those typically don't fall under unmet transit needs definitions. They fall just under operational issues. However, we do still look at those as needs. They just, again, don't follow this specific criteria. So I would say they still rise to a level of importance to improve operations, just not to define as unmet transit needs.
So in other words, like a bike lane, that might be a need, but a dedicated bike lane with a curb or something to deter traffic hitting a bicyclist or a pedestrian, that would not be, I mean, if you have 50 fatalities there, that wouldn't be determinative and helpful with determining an unmet need?
Not as an unmet transit need, no.
Okay, well, interesting. Okay, thank you. And public, any other comments or questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's more a comment. Our mayor and vice mayor touched on this about having a safe lane along 49. So EB Kane, it's a K-8 school, but they still have a lot of folks that live in North Auburn. So we have county residents, county students. Has there been any outreach to our school districts? Because I know our school districts we don't have transportation.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't know the specifics. It is technically a project being led by my colleague Corey, who's not here tonight. However, I do know that we do work very closely with our partners here at the city of Auburn. We work with a lot of jurisdictions and stakeholders that matriculate through Auburn and work with Auburn. So I don't have the number of comments or where they were received from, but we have in the past worked with the school districts to determine some of these needs.
Well, given the school closures and the fact that we are down to 3, and
Mhm.
so we still have many families that are having to travel that 49 route, I would hope that those conversations are at least ongoing, particularly since they have a new superintendent.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Public comment?
Vice Mayor, to your point, also with the grant that we have, we're also doing a traffic safety assessment with it. So that'll be folded into the ATP, which should help communicate some of those real safety issues and provide for data and input on how we resolve those. So ours is just a little bit
Good.
different because we're going a little bit farther. So.
Oh, great. Thank you. I appreciate that because, I was in Amsterdam, I want to say, and an impetus there, they had 3,000 now it's a different town, 3,000 fatalities in 1970. And so that prompted them to do a complete rehaul of their bike lanes. And now they have 0 fatalities, 0 injuries. In fact, they don't even wear helmets, but anyway. So. Let's start that.
Thank you. Kelly Davis, I'm the director of Auburn Trails Alliance, and for Sandy and the council, I just want to reinforce the importance of these plans because I've been a stakeholder on this PCTPA panel, and the value that not only obtaining grants from the federal level and the state level, but it's been a barrier as a nonprofit to apply for grants, wanting to put in smaller projects, signage, bike racks, things like that. When the larger organizations have those plans, we can coordinate and apply for grant funding that's not even through it's the city partners with us, but it's easier for a nonprofit to apply as well when the plans are there. And if we can coordinate getting Auburn connected to the county, it'll be incredible for tourism and economic development. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments? Hey, thank you. I think we just are to receive the information. Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Then our next one is the almost free to all presentation.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. That's me. Let me get to where we're at here. So this is just simply a presentation from the Almost Free to All board on the activities happening at the Carnegie Library. As council knows, the city funded some of the updates to that building, city-owned facility, using ARPA money. So we designated $150,000 of our ARPA money towards the rehabilitation of that building. And so we figured it would be a good thing for the Almost Free to All group, who is the nonprofit running that rehabilitation, to come do a presentation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Alexia Vitalik for the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm Alexia Vitalik, current president of Almost Free to All, and out in the audience are several of our board members. Just wave. Let them see who you are. They're here to support. What we wanted to bring you was an update as to where we've gotten to, what we've been able to accomplish, what's coming up, and kind of fill you in on. All right. You jinxed it. Where's the gentleman who left? Thank you. It was working and now it's not.
Purpose, you sabotage.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
All right. appreciate it. Yeah.
Down.
Thank you. I was pushing the down button. It didn't want to go. Okay. So what's our focus? Creating an affordable space in which to celebrate arts, culture, education, and community events. That's the purpose of what the Almost Free to All is doing with Carnegie Library. We have named the program that will be supporting this as Branches at the Carnegie, which is what you see there. So what we've been going through and making sure that as we proceed with activity at revitalizing the Carnegie Library, that we work with the residents in the immediate area, check with them routinely, having meetings to introduce ourselves, the vision, show them the plans, ask them what their concerns are, make sure that they have tours, getting all the kind of conversations going. And we don't do this through like social media posts. We literally walk the neighborhood and tape notices and invites to all the mailboxes and all the doors, because we want to make sure they see it. So what has been the big thing that we have seen from these different members? What is their number one concern? And I bet everybody here could guess. Parking. Yes, the number one concern. So we looked at that, and we are a board of folks who don't believe in just identifying a problem, but trying to find solutions for them. So what we've looked at and what we're presenting to you here is the solution that we have found to parking for the Carnegie Library. There is no on-site parking, none. There is very little parking even for residents on Almond Street. So what was our option? Well, we looked at East Placer. East Placer is a fantastic place. It's got quite a bit of parking. There's 26 on-street spots. Those are represented by the green lines. There are 44 public area spots in that pink area. That's the what we used to refer to as the PG&E lot. It's the one right next to the PG&E. It's there at High and East E Placer. There are 44 there. Now I want you to take a look at the blue spots. The blue spots, which are basically 2 houses up, 2 houses over from the Carnegie Library, that's Auburn Journal parking space. It is what they've been using for their employees for decades. The Auburn Journal's operational situation has changed, and that lot's open quite a lot. So what we did is approach the Auburn Journal, and we have a big thank you to them. We now have a partnership with them that, especially during periods when they're not in operation, evenings, weekends, the Carnegie Library and anybody who's using it can park in the Auburn Journal parking lot. Now that gives you 29 spaces. As you can see there, the 26, 29, and 44, that's 99 parking spaces on E Placer. If you then look at the yellow area, that yellow area is the area behind Pelican's Roost and all of the Trepazian things. We went through and did a count. We were very, very careful in looking at every parking spot to make sure that we did not include tenant or reserved parking spots. So those were specifically excluded from our counts. There's an additional 28 spots. What you have there is 127 parking spots available for folks who would want to use the Carnegie Library. This is what we will recommend to folks using the Carnegie. This is where the best places to park at. One of the things you see up there is the First Baptist Church. We haven't spoken to them about their parking lot, but that's another option should it be determined that we need more. This is a picture of East Placer. If you look at it, it's really a nice gentle slope. Anybody been walked up Almond Street? This is a much better walk, so much better. Part of the reason we looked at this is one, there's plenty of parking, gentler slope. minimal traffic. This is not a primary thoroughfare in downtown Auburn. You have Lincoln Way, High Street, you have all that traffic. This area is not heavily traveled with through traffic, so it makes it nice and easy for folks to park and walk with relative safety. There's multiple ingress and egress because you can come out through the light. You can come out off Almond Street. You can come out off Pine and the back end of Pine that then goes up and under the highway. So there's multiple ways for folks to get there. It also leaves, and this was important when we were looking at this, if the Carnegie were to have a major event, it leaves open parking on Lincoln Way, it leaves parking on High Street, it leaves downtown parking, leaves the Baked and Brewed parking lot that's right next to it. All of that remains untouched. And we can have 127 people there, and that's what we were looking at. So we think this is a pretty good solution to the parking situation. Now we want to talk about some of the improvements. The Carnegie Library sat vacant for a while. That's had, different folks using it. So there was a lot of stuff going on with it. You have the befores on top up here. You have the foyer, which had some issues with lifting up carpet and some stair issues. You have just inside the door, this is looking back out. You have to the right, that was a false wall that was installed. It was used to hang artwork and things. And on the bottom, you can see the foyer is now painted and it's dark. We have tile and things going in. We have improvements there. You can see the foyer exit, that's been painted. And now you can see on the other side, the after, there's the wall has been removed and all of the windows have been revealed. So that is some of the improvements there. Of course, anyone who would like, we are always happy to have give tours and show what's going on. Want to just kind of make a statement to everyone here that this is happening through the community support. So the foyer work is being handled by Gold Country Rotary, and the interior work, which you'll see more of upstairs and out in the garden, has been the work of the Rotary Club of Auburn. Tremendous community support. So here's the improvements upstairs again. You can see our team up there before improvements, and down below you can see how it's been painted. So it's got a beautiful improvement of a gray palette with some white trim to kind of highlight the windows. You see that before up there? This was fun. We were in the one office area upstairs and we were looking to have the ceiling redone and painted. Well, the guys went, oh, we have to replace the drywall. So they took it down and found a second set of drywall that was wet. Took that down and found wet insulation and a leak and everything. So it was completely removed. The city went upstairs and found that it was something associated with the air conditioning unit. They fixed that part, and the Rotary Club of Auburn fixed this part. We used ARPA dollars to mitigate any and all mold. So all of that was taken care of and handled within the period of a week or two of its discovery. So there you can see some of the gentlemen from the Rotary Club of Auburn after it's been repaired and fixed. So many thanks to them. Garden area. On the left, you see the before, kind of overgrown, a little chaotic. There's mold, or not mold, but moss on all of the decomposed granite and stuff. There was weeds. To the right, you see the after. Again, Rotary Club of Auburn provided this. There's decomposed granite that got set in that was then sealed, so it creates a nice hard surface. On the bottom picture on the right, you can see in the back, there's a table. That area actually has pavers now. And so where it had been thick detritus and really soft, squishy soil that you sunk into, it now has pavers. It's a perfect place for a quartet or an MC or folks to have a wedding staged. So that's some of the improvements there. Now we're going to the downstairs. This is where the American Rescue Plan dollars are being handled and used. This is the main thing. The city gave us allocated $150,000 of ARPA dollars. First part of it included architecture, structural engineering, asbestos removal, lead paint abatement, mold abatement. All of that is the first $50,000 that was expended. That gave us $100,000 left. We have two primary projects. The downstairs bathroom. There is no ADA bathroom. We must have an ADA bathroom. So that was one project. And the other project was an ingress of a ramp through the front. Well, we went through all the work, worked closely with the city. The staff has been phenomenal. We worked with Mengel and Aaron and Andres to get this together. We put all of it together, got the plans out, did a bid, did a very thorough effort. Not only was it posted by the city, but we got it down to the Sacramento Regional Builders Exchange, which I didn't know had absorbed Placer County Builders Exchange, and then out to several contractors. So we wanted to make sure there was a lot of ample opportunity for local individuals to bid as well as others. Bids came back. Sticker shock. Always happens. You think you have one idea and then the sticker comes in and you're like, oh, wow, that wasn't quite what we thought. We ended up with low bid. Highest bid was 219,000. Lowest bid was 140. Out of that 140, 46,000 would have been for the ingress, so the ramp into the front, or $93,000 for the bathroom. So we sat down, debated with it, and then spoke with the city and said, you know, operationally, the most critical thing is you got to have a bathroom. So we decided that we will take from that 100,000, we will focus on the bathroom, and here you can see what's happening. The walls are being knocked out. You're having the plumbing rerouted, the septic's being rerouted, so they're doing a lot. Some of the challenges they've come into is that there's galvanized pipes, and some of them don't necessarily want to be tied into. They're a little crumbly, but they're working on it. So that is in process. They've got quite a bit of it going. Our understanding, this is contractor has said that October 4 was their deadline to get it done, but you know, we always be reasonable with contracting. Sometimes things take a little while. We're hoping completion is in October. So that's where we're at with that. So again, just to kind of reiterate that we were very fortunate to have the Rotary Club of Auburn doing the garden and the upstairs, the foyer improvements by Gold Country Rotary. And right now they are in the process tomorrow of putting the tile in the floor and the new aspects for all of the new, what it's a laminate, is it? Kind of thing. It's a material that's going to go on the steps. So those are being replaced, making sure that everything else is put in. We've got to have lights and stuff taken care of. And then of course, the downstairs bathroom area brought to you by the City of Auburn ARPA dollars. Thank you for those. So next we're going to look at what's going on and what is the Carnegie focusing on. This is kind of our next steps. We actually have divided our focus into two specific categories: the up and running. We need funding to up and run. That's tables, chairs, equipment, supplies, decals, things along those lines. Those are the things to open the doors and be functional. Then we have the capital projects. The capital projects are those bigger dollar items. That includes the HVAC system. We've had it repaired and looked at, and unfortunately the furnace is not repairable. It actually has a carbon monoxide situation, so it's not usable. The windows upstairs, they're single pane. Those need to be replaced, and so we'll be looking at that. The front ADA ramp access, that had originally been under ARPA dollars. But now that we don't have those and it was more expensive, that'll be something else that we'll look at doing. And then of course, one of the things that we're looking at is putting in a lift. So for full access, we need to have people to be able to go from the downstairs to the upstairs. And we've been looking at a lot of options and have found some amazing and creative things. So that's kind of where we are there. So some other things that are happening right now, what we can do with what we have. Construction has started on the bathroom, and so ETA about October. Flooring and tile in the foyer. The garden gate. This is part of how the Almost Free to All team is putting restoration and revitalization components in place. We look for grants, we look for opportunities, we leverage everything we can find. So in this case, we actually received an art grant to have that gate repaired, and it went out as a call to artists. So there's one of those economic and artistic stimulation that we can get from the program. A grant for the gate. Local artist Norm Tucker is going to be doing that. The design you see there to the left, it's a metal gate. And then the part that you see in the center, that circle, his goal is to have a Nicholson glass insert in there. So you would have a lovely artistic gate to the back, something little solid, easy to move. The wood gate is functional, but you get splinters when you move it sometimes and it doesn't swing as well. So getting that replaced will be good. Then of course, we're going to be looking at our up and running capital improvements, and we have painting of the carpet going on. Carpet needs to be replaced. It's a funding issue. It's not terrible carpet. It just doesn't look real pretty. So one of the local artists, Hannah from Nicholson Glass, is literally painting designs on the carpet so that any of the splatters or any of the old stains are not as seeable until we have the funds to completely replace the carpet. We were impressed to find out you can, and it's absolutely a beautiful design. It's actually quite ethereal. So without describing more of it, we can reveal that at another time, but it's going to have an ethereal appeal and it will work until such time as we can replace it. And so, and our goal is to replace it sooner than later. So we'll get there. So we're going to talk about funding sources. So in addition to the ARPA dollars from the city of Auburn, here's what some of the other things we've had. We've had grants that we've received from the Arts Council of Placer County Community Foundation, the Sugar Plum Fairies, Osaic Financial, and PG&E made a matching grant to a donor who was a retiree and said, hey, can you match this? And voila. We've applied for grants with T-Mobile, Union Pacific, Osaic Financial for Leadership, and the United Auburn Indian Community. The United Auburn Indian Community grant is ongoing and we don't know if we received it or not, so we're crossing our fingers. T-Mobile, Union Pacific, and the Osaic, we didn't get those, but we can apply again, so we'll do it. If there's always a chance to apply and reapply, we will. One of the other things that we have is a Briar Patch grant that we're applying for, and we have already replied for the T-Mobile. I'm correct for the T-Mobile? Yeah, okay. So we're looking at now. Councilman Holmes has pointed out that the Historic Preservation Society has grants. Well, their grant programs that process starts around March. We have already tagged it, have it on the calendar. We'll be hitting it up for everything that we possibly can find. In addition, we have some partners out there who have access to Candid and are helping us look for additional grants that may be out there. With the change to the internet and the plethora of ads that come up when you try and research anything, it's very hard to find grants without using a grant search service. And so we are going to be working with our partners to see what we can pull from there. So in looking at that, just to kind of give you an idea, in 2023, we received $11,400 in grants. In 2024, we received 2,125. So we have some more out there. That number could change. So we've got about 13,500 in grants thus far. So that's a pretty good start. Of course, we hope to make it bigger because we want to fund that lift and we want to fund that access to the front. We're going to take a look at what has also come out of this. When we spoke to the city council about AFTA and about the Carnegie and our vision, we looked at it and we said, this is a community project. This is something that has it's in the hearts of many people. They have stories, they have history. Here's a representation for you. Our donations in 2023 were $1,385. In 2024, they were $12,000. And part of that was the big day of giving. But this is just a list of some of the folks who have participated in donating to the Carnegie. And you'll see there are like 10 anonymous donors. And we have others who have made commitments to continue to support the Carnegie as well. Let me see what we've got from there. So now this is just cash donations. This is the next one that's really amazing. In-kind donors. So you have, Mark Jensen from Warehouse Paints donated all the paint that was used in the library. We're grateful to him for that. Gina KCF with Oasis Landscaping, her team put in a lot of the work in the back, helping us with the plants and all of those things. Green Acres, we had plants and labor. We've had Jeff Spores, who's been an HVAC consultant trying to help us. I mean, you can see Pride Industries is on there. They came to us and asked can we do some of the maintenance and the yard mates and the cleanup for you because it's a good exchange for their program. Sent that through the city, got that all done. So those are just some of the things. Now, what you see here is if you just go by product alone, the in-kind donations were 17,000 plus, just product. If you go by labor and hours that all of these people have put forward, you can basically take 17,000 and multiply it at least 2 or 3 times in terms of what we've gotten in support from the community. And so it's been a real big thing. So in conclusion, we actually want to say big thank you to the staff, Sean and Andreas and Aaron and Menjel. You guys have been so awesome. They worked with us and helped really quickly with any questions we have. We make sure everything is passed through them. We send everything to Sean. Just loves us. I know he loves to see when it says, hey, Carnegie question again, pops up in his email. We make sure everything goes through risk assessment. We make sure that everything's clear with the city, that they're comfortable with any agreements we have. We do all of those things. But the bigger thing about what's happening with the Carnegie, beyond the partnership with AFTA and the city, is that the community's coming together and it's bringing a tremendous amount of energy and commitment and drive and excitement. And we've already had a number of individuals requesting to use the Carnegie space. And we could easily, as soon as we open the doors, start packing it in. So with that, I think I've covered everything. Anything, ladies, that I missed? Okay. Just double checking, they keep me on task and make sure that I don't forget anything. With that, any questions?
Any questions? Michelle?
Just a comment, oh my gosh, kudos. I mean, especially when you hear of any sort of event or an event space, that is right. The first thing you hear is parking. And so I really commend your group for not just thinking about it, but like really going after it. And these aren't new spaces.
Yeah.
So they've been there. So when people say, oh, there's no parking, yes, there is. Just ask Alexia. But no, I really appreciate that. I'm super excited to possibly take a tour and just really see it all. I mean, I don't think these pictures, I'm sure, don't do it
Oh,
justice.
no, they don't, but it's incredible.
No,
It's
what a great,
Yeah,
great
we're moving
endeavor.
forward. So your investment, we're hoping is paying off dividends and hopefully much more quickly than you expected, which is our goal.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Under
Councilman Hahn?
promise, over deliver.
Yes. First, a question. My recollection is that there's a driveway right next to it that is shared with the resident.
Yes.
And was my understanding that half of that driveway was actually belongs to the city.
That is our understanding, that there's an easement that allows that individual to use that as a driveway. We're allowed to pull vehicles into it and use the back gate to drop things off and then move out of it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I want to congratulate you on what you've done so far, but I think this building is, since it's on the National Register of Historic Places, is eligible for grants from the National Endowment. And I'd like to get an estimate of how much, if you're talking about putting a ramp in the front and a lift in the building, and as I understand it, a kitchen and some other improvements inside, that we put those all together and apply for a
major
national
grant?
grant.
Absolutely. And that's why we were looking at those timelines. Those are in the spring area around March, but absolutely. We've already, in answer to Councilman Holmes' discussion there, we have estimates for what a lift would cost. We have two different versions. One's very elegant. It's a rounded one. We're actually getting some contract estimates. So we have a whole project there. We already have estimates for what it would be for the front access. And then we have a priority projects list where we've been able to get estimates for everything, and we can provide a complete package, or we can provide packages of different things in combination.
And instead of painting the carpets, putting new carpets in with that?
Well, the new carpets, that is the goal. The carpet right now, it's functional, not pretty, functional. But when you're having events there and we don't have the funds right now to replace it, we can use the painting to cover what's not so pretty and allow us to use it until we can raise the funds to actually replace it. There actually is a fundraising plan to raise the funds that we need to replace the carpet. It's just this is a temporary patch to, when the carpet looks bad, what can you do with it? Oh, paint it. There we go.
Well, if we put all that together, we can probably get a grant, one grant that'll cover everything.
We can do that. We also have designs on at least 2 or 3 regional grants that could take specific projects. So Absolutely. We will not turn down an
I think
opportunity
we're
to
looking
apply.
at every way possible to
Mhm.
get it all done. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
They are looking in every way
Absolutely.
possible to get it all done. So
And maintain, to the best of our ability, the historic integrity of the building.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
do you have
So-
any further questions? Comments?
Well, I think I'll get together with the city historian and we'll put something together to apply.
Great. Thank
for
you.
the-
Remember that.
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll provide you with all the information that you need. We have a lot of it. We're happy to do that.
Okay, Councilwoman Dowden Cavill.
Yes, thank you very much. So, this is more than I ever could have envisioned when I had suggested establishing a nonprofit umbrella, and I remember when April came to the council several years ago asking for funds for the Carnegie. And we talked about this idea of this overarching umbrella organization. And we've had conversations years ago, and I'm incredibly impressed and I'm so very pleased that it's really coming to fruition. And like I said, even more than I could have expected. And I'm just really proud of our community and all of our volunteers that are putting forth so much effort. They're putting their money where their mouth is, and just, again, breathing new air into an old public space. And breathing new life, I guess, is really what the word is. I'm tired, it's late, but it's just incredibly impressive. I check in with you guys from time to time. I kind of feel like, that's my job. And I'm just so incredibly impressed, from everything, just from your board composition to just, really reaching out to so many facets of the community and securing funds and donate and volunteer hours. Just doing a tremendous job. I know I have donated money too. So through Big Day of Giving. So I don't know if I'm on there as an anonymous, but I have also put my money where my mouth is also. So very impressed and just love the fact that you came to give us a report today and can't wait to see it open. You're getting close. I mean, and it's very impressive. Like I said, it's more than I could have imagined. And I'm just very, very happy. So thank you so much on behalf of all of the community.
Thank you. Mayor Riddell Harris, did you have a comment?
Sure, I'll just add my congratulations as well. I remember walking through the building almost 4 years ago when April just had this dream that hadn't really come to fruition yet. And so I love that she got everyone together. The whole community came together to make the nonprofit, and then it shows what our community can do when we really put our mind to something and try to make something happen. So I appreciate everyone who has donated and who put time and effort in this. And of course, all the members of the nonprofit that have worked so hard. It's so great to know that we put some money into this project and that it's really going to turn out to have a great ending. So I'm very excited. Thank you.
And I would just like to add that, I'm most excited that we are preserving history here. So the Carnegie is history of Auburn. So many buildings. I just took the walking tour of Auburn. So many buildings have been torn down and not preserved. So this is such a wonderful way to preserve our history. And you're doing a beautiful job. And not only that, the community gets to use it and utilize it. And all the effort that you're going through to do this is so appreciated, and will be forever remembered with the beautiful building that's still there. And I, as a little girl, use that building, and I'm especially appreciative. But that is wonderful. That's so important. I'm just very thrilled because when we started this, it was dilapidated and it could have just as well been torn down and made a parking lot. So, and the other 2 points is shared parking is something that we need to address in this town, and you're the first one to do it. And I really appreciate and applaud that effort. That took a lot of time and talking and collaboration and working with people. So appreciate that. And finally, with the HVAC, you could look into mini splits maybe too. So I don't know. But
Well, that's, right now, that project is actually under the city for the energy efficiency and things.
oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Oh, I'm thinking about that. Okay, thank you.
yeah, but who knows what they'll come up with. So,
Yes.
and again, the parking solution was, thanks for the Auburn Journal for being willing to be great partners. So all you have to do is ask. So
Exactly. So thank you. Anyone from the public comment? Thank you so much. So this is informational, so we can move on to our next item. Thank you. Really appreciate your presentation.
Madam Mayor, could we have or Vice Mayor, could we have a 5-minute break?
Sure, we'll take a 5-minute break because we have the fiscal year-end reports. Yes. And Okay, item number 9, the 23-24 fiscal year end status update, general fund.
Good evening again, Gretchen Johnson, your finance director. And tonight I'm going to deliver the fiscal year end status update for the general fund. We look back a little bit. We look back to June 30th of 2024, which is the end of fiscal year 23-24. Oh, wait. Okay. So a little bit of background. We had our mid-year financial update March 11th, and that's an important date because that is the date where the budget for fiscal year 23-24 was adjusted. And that is what we're comparing our year-end results to. That is the last budget allocation for the general fund that the council has approved. That is also important because that is the date that the city's general fund deficit was first daylighted. It ended up being the second year of a deficit and continues to be, as you'll see in this presentation, that trend continues. There's been a lot of effort since March through June. City staff were working on the development of the fiscal year budget for 24-25, and we had some presentations, interaction with council on some difficult choices to make as we were preparing that budget for July 1st of the new year. The deficit for the general fund at that time was just over 1.7 million as an estimate. And then tonight, September 23rd, not September 24th, got a little excited with the 24s there on the slide, but we are looking now at a slightly better deficit, however, still quite large at about 1.5 million. And I'll explain how we've arrived at that since our budget and last fiscal updates were presented. So the purpose of this update is not just to address the deficit that we have in our general fund, but it covers a lot of areas. It describes a little bit our year-end process. It discusses the preparation of the 2024 annual comprehensive financial report and the effort going into that right now. It compares our fiscal year 23-24 budget to actuals, a summary of revenue projections. It does an overview of the latest deficit and the forecast looking out over the next 5 years. And then I've thrown in a highlight to the finance department, our accomplishments and challenges since I started here back in March. So the first part of that was to describe the year-end process. And of course, the city follows our generally accepted accounting principles, modified accrual method. The reason I'm pointing this out is because through that accounting approach, we have 60 days to recognize all of the revenues and expenditures that belong to the prior fiscal year that had closed. That enables us to actually receive payments, for example, from other government agencies, which do tend to take a little while after the June 30th date to arrive. We're also able to post all of the expenditures through invoices and other means that we either know to accrue and anticipate, or that we actually receive for services through June 30th. So over that time period of 60 days, the general fund received about $2.3 million in its general fund revenue. It also posted a little bit less, but basically 2.3 million in expenditures. So we netted pretty even with that. And that's part of the reason why the deficit overall doesn't change much. And then preparing the 2024 annual comprehensive financial report, we are very actively busy, the finance team and I, working on those actions. There are over 100 deliverables that our new auditor has asked for. We're clicking away at those. And then, of course, there are several just governmental accounting transactions that we need to do in addition to just posting revenues and expenditures. And I've thrown a few up there. It's not an exhaustive list, but there's capital asset purchases and depreciation of existing assets, adjusting our short and long-term obligations, whether it's for debt or other financial arrangements, distributing interest, investment earnings. So we've talked about where all of our investments are, and we earn interest and investment earnings on those things, and we distribute that across all of our citywide funds. It doesn't all just come to the general fund. We have to fairly and equitably distribute all of our earnings across all of our citywide funds. So the next part is comparing those budget to actuals, looking back to that June 30th date and identifying how our general fund departments did in terms of falling within their council approved budget allocations. Overall, departments did not exceed their expenditure budgets, which is great news. It means that mid-year update and the budget amendments that were made were highly accurate. There were two areas in the departments that went over budget, but for good reason. So for unexpected building repairs and equipment maintenance, those two areas did go over budget. However, overall in the general fund with all the departments included, we were still only at 94.8% of budget, which is a good place to be. There is in your council packet, if you're following along on page 170, there is a table that lists all of the departments and their budget to actual result and percentage for each one for your review. Let's see, departments for the revenue side, this was not as good news as compared to budget. General fund revenues overall were 95.1% of budget. Typically, we want to see revenues coming in over budget, not under budget, because that allows us to ensure that all of our expenditures are covered and funded, and we don't need to use any reserves to help cover our costs. Few revenues that did exceed budget expectations include franchise fees for our garbage collection, building permits, business licenses, and land rentals. And then diving down into the revenues themselves. So I've prepared a comparison of our revenues. Back in June, we also put together a deficit projection, which accompanied our final budget presentation. So I've identified those earlier on projections in the column at the left compared to where we are now with our preliminary year-end results. And just as in our projections and budget, the revenues that exceeded our budget expectations also exceeded our projection expectations. And so those, for example, we have franchise fees on this table, 173,000 or 122.2% over that previous projection. Land rentals at 32,000 or 108.4% over. Sales tax, very important, makes up 45% of our total general fund revenues. That one came in 105% over budget or 377,000 over those prior projections, rather, not budget. And because of this and the importance of this revenue source, I've spoken with our sales tax consultant, HDL Companies, to ascertain why their earlier projections were lower than what we actually received. So as usual, the fuel sales, likely due to gas prices, were part of it at the airport there, and they made up about $100,000 of the difference. And sales tax collected by the state and county for subsequent distribution to the city made up the rest of the difference. We did have some other areas that were higher, such as in construction, but then they were kind of offset by other areas such as consumer goods. Okay, we're really familiar with this slide. It does an excellent job. This graph shows a little bit of history. And then our first 2 years of our general fund deficit in fiscal year 22-23 there at about almost 1.2 million. And then here we are now with our preliminary results for fiscal year 23-24 at 1.5 million. And then our zero for the final budget, because we, as you know, had to make some difficult choices to fill the gap. We did use some one-time solutions for the balanced budget effective July 1st. And because those one-time solutions are not sustainable, that is why we still have a deficit looking over the next 5 years. So another important note I'd like to make on the forecast looking out 5 years is that they were updated. Those figures there were updated based on the newest revenue receipts that we have. So that's been incorporated. It has updated personnel costs, contract costs, and other expenditures that fluctuate over time. Not included in this forecast, which is probably more important to know, are personnel costs such as overtime in excess of budget, future negotiated wage increases, frozen vacant positions as of July 1st, updates for newly vacated positions, changes to the CalPERS unfunded liability discount rate, and major equipment and building repairs. So if we add any of those to this model, that deficit over the next 5 years will definitely increase absent other action to reduce costs. So we're looking at year over year about 800,000 of a deficit, and coincidentally, that's where we were just about at mid-year. We've kind of gone up and down over our updates over time, but now we have really good data for the end of fiscal year 23-24, which has helped us fine tune them, at least as of now, what the future deficit is looking like. And then to almost be wrapping it up here, I wanted to just highlight the finance department and where we've come over the last several months. Really proud of the small team I have, extremely hard workers, we've gotten a lot done. I would not be so successful without them. So one of the really cool things we did was accounts payable automation. And this was a feature in our Tyler financial system that already existed. We didn't have to pay for it. It was already there. We just had to implement the features, train everyone to do it. It's cut our invoice processing costs down, I'm going to say by at least half. For example, we used to print out all of the hard checks in the finance department and stamp them one by one with a stamping signature to pay all of our invoices. That doesn't happen in our department anymore. We have Tyler, who had already been working with a third-party check distributor, doing that now. And just doing that cut the check costs to the city in half. Not to mention the staffing time to move paper, filling out forms, requesting invoices be paid, walking them over to us. All of that is gone, and folks can do things now virtually from their desk. So super excited about that one, as you might be able to tell. And then recently your council approved a new budget software, ClearGov. So thank you very much. That we're currently working on designing that, getting our data ready for uploading it into that software. And we're going to be looking at January, this coming January, to start training departments on how to use that software and get their budget requests in. And then timely ACFR preparations. We are at this point 6 months ahead of where we were last time around. So that's huge. We do believe that we're going to have the 2024 ACFR done in January. And so we'll have just another excellent tool in our toolbox for understanding the city's financial position and looking forward with that. And then maximizing the Tyler financial software that we have. We've gone through and identified what we're not using, stopped paying for those things that we're not using, and keeping what we do want to use and quickly trying to get something implemented with them. So finance challenges, though, with all that excitement, there are still plenty of things to do. You might recall the prior auditor recommendations. There were a lot of findings and recommendations that came from that. We've tackled, I'll say, many of them that were, oh yes, we can just go in and clean up an account or do something. We've done a lot, but there are still many to be done. A lot of procedure writing, and policy development is part of that. There are some stale accounts and fund structures. When the city implemented Tyler, it brought over a lot of information that was subsequently inactivated or changed for all the good reasons when you do a system conversion or implementation, but that still needs some cleanup. We have a outdated accounts receivable software that we really need to find a citywide solution for. Unfortunately, I don't think Tyler is going to be able to accomplish that. It accomplishes about a third of what we need, so we need to work on that for our airport, sewer, and some community development areas. I mentioned the procedure development, data organization, ease of access. It's all that, there's been so much transition and turnover over time. There's information in various places. I want to bring that in and provide some organization to it. Cross-training for when folks want to take time off or have to take time off, still working on trying to accomplish that. And then finally, it came a little bit faster than expected, though expected. Our longtime financial consultant, Andy Heath, decided to not renew his contract. We knew that was coming, but I did want to at least acknowledge that, he wasn't just a contract employee. He was with the city, a former employee over the course of the last 20 years, and that's pretty huge. So I do thank him in the onboarding and education that he provided to me while he was working with the city, and just wanted to give a quick acknowledgement there. So next steps and the final slide. As I noted, we're wrapping up that annual comprehensive financial report in January. We're going to continue to do some updates to council. We're going to do a first quarter fiscal update in the next month or two, depending on how those council dates pan out. And then, of course, that structural deficit. We continue to work with city manager and coordinate with city council on trying to find solutions to that situation. Finance department has been a wealth of support for that, just providing various financial scenarios, etc. So with that, I'll turn it over to council if there are any questions or comments.
Anyone on the council? No questions? Down, Councilwoman?
More of a comment. So thank you very much for your extensive report. And I know that we've all had an opportunity to review the report that you provided, including the presentation. So thank you for that. I always like to take a look at these things before the meeting. It's important that we receive these updates. I'm happy to see that we were able to reduce that deficit by, $200,000. With expenses coming in a little bit under and then revenues slightly over. But the challenge, as you said, is still there with an $800,000 deficit looking at straight in the face. I know that when we first adopted the budget, we were looking at about 573 to 700,000, and now it's, gotten up. And so it's as I said, and I will continue to say, this is a time when we have to make some very, very difficult decisions, because we have to live within our means, and we weren't doing that, and we absolutely have to, and that's going to be very difficult, but it must be done because we can't print money. There are other things that we can do as well to foster economic development and things of that nature, and that some of that means right sizing the organization and making some changes there, but really being very aggressive in that effort, and others as well. So I appreciate the information, and it's nice to see that we're able to be automated on some of our financials, and just the budget software itself, I think, will help to eliminate any errors that may have been happened in the past. You know, we were using Excel, and for an organization this size, that's incredible that we were just using Excel and we didn't have any, you know, that's part of the problem, is that there wasn't any, you know, something that was a backstop, if you will. I mean, Excel isn't perfect. It's not a budget software program. It's not doing that checks and balances and things of that nature. And so, you know, really, when you just have one person looking at it, it's amazing that we didn't have more issues, I guess I'll just say. So happy to see that we're automated and coming up with some of those solutions. I know you expressed some desire to move forward with some additional as well. So, you know, to the best that we can when it makes fiscal sense, and when it means that we can save dollars, staff time, you know, that's certainly something that perks my interest. You know, when I hear the savings of staff time, and staff can be putting that time to other important usage, then that's certainly a good thing. So thank you very much for your report. And I know that we're going to continue to tackle this issue. We've got more issues coming up at our October meeting. And, you know, just want to express to our staff too, I know that it's a tough time that we're in right now. And we as on the council certainly recognize that, you know, it's not easy. Having been a public sector employee myself for more than 37 years, I've been through all of it. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the council?
Just a brief comment, just a sincere thanks. And while yes, we were able to not so much fix, but at least do what we could for this current year, knowing that we have a structural deficit. I will say though, it was nice to see some bright spots here. So there's some hope. So even though, yes, the situation it's pretty dire. I mean, no lie. But seeing the little bright spots, I think it's very important for all of us to make sure that if there's something to celebrate, that we do that. So thank you.
Councilwoman or Mayor Riddell Harris.
Thank you. I also wanted to share my appreciation for all of everyone's hard work on the budget, and also everyone's hard work that went behind all of those cuts that have already been made, and all the work that I know staff is doing to try to figure out what the next step is with trying to make sure that we balance our budget. I know that the city manager has been working really hard on that, and I look forward to some solutions that are going to be presented to us in the next few months of how we're going to deal with that, so that way we don't have ongoing issues and are able to get back to a spot where we have a balanced budget. So I appreciate everyone's hard work on this, and I know how hard it is. And I do appreciate all the hard work that everyone's doing, and trying to get efficiencies and making sure that we're stretching our dollars as far as we can. So thank you.
Yes, and I wanted to say that, this shows a little bit of improvement, but we're certainly not out of the woods at all. I do appreciate everyone. I think we jumped on this early, and we're working hard, and we're working together. And I think that's the key. We're all working together, working very hard. We recognize our issue, and we're trying to tackle it in the best way we can. One thing that does jump out to me though, is we did get a little bump on sales tax. I see our top 25 producers. And, I think I've seen this list before. I'm hoping we can add to this list, because some of these are going to fall off, some big ones. And so I think it's important. And I think the city has focused on trying to stimulate this so that we do have more income that we can rely on. Unfortunately, this list has been here for a long time, the same list. So I'd like to see some big improvement. And some of them that I see here, I go by there and there doesn't look like there's much business. So if our top 25 producers don't seem busy to me, then I'm a little concerned. So I'm hoping that, and I think we all are, that we can work hard at trying to improve that, so that our sales tax will keep going up and not drop off. So, but again, thank you. And I think it's a group effort. We've been working really hard at trying to take care of our situation. And I do see some improvement, which also helps, but there's a long ways to go. So,
and Madam Vice Mayor, I think not only is the sales tax list kind of consistent, but we also need to try to move away from relying that much on sales tax.
Yes.
Because it's so volatile, right? And so diversifying our revenue with TOT and with sales tax and property, all that stuff, right? We got to have all of it going at the same time, not just increasing sales tax. That's a key component for sure. But we also need to look at other revenue sources at the same time. And we're working on that.
Yeah, good. Absolutely. Well, I noticed our property tax will remain the same, basically. I mean, there's not really much room for,
Yeah, I mean, the only time that really goes up is if there's new development happening or if you get a bunch of housing turning over, right? So you've got the increment from the
those are the
property
two
taxes, right?
big areas.
And so at this point, we don't have a whole lot of area for new development to happen. Form-based code, when that comes through eventually, that'll help, I think.
Yeah.
And we just don't see a whole lot of housing turnover either, so.
Yeah. So
It's tough.
I appreciate all that. So how about the public? Anyone in the public have some comments with regard to this item? Okay, well, seeing none, then I think we have received the information and appreciate your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're down to the city manager report.
Thank you. I'll keep this quick. A couple big ones that I wanted to point out. Remedy Supply Company continues progressing. By the way, this is typed out in the back of the room again, and we'll post it on the website. Much longer, more detail, so I'll only hit a couple of high spots. Remedy Supply, that's in downtown in the old Mickey's Boots building, recently received its last footings inspection, so the business is able to start pouring concrete in the morning. And I'm not sure if they're doing that in the morning, but they could if they wanted to. 7 a.m. Boom. Good. Most noticeable to the public will be the stem wall in front of the building that will be used to enclose the front patio, bringing the face of the building close to flush to the street, meaning that the fence should come down and the framing of the facade should start soon. So I think we're all looking forward to the fence coming down. Let's see. New State of the City event. So in order to accommodate all residents and businesses who wanted to hear about the state of the city, and then also to make sure that the city is compliant with the recently modified state law, Mayor Riddell Harris and I are working on establishing a new event to be held here in the council chambers. That's New State of the City event, and then tentatively scheduled for the evening on November 21st. We'll have more information as we get closer to that. No better way to celebrate the day after my birthday, for those who are wondering. Ace Hardware recently opened on 49, the new location, for the first time last Thursday. They haven't had an official announcement or a grand opening celebration they haven't scheduled that yet. But the soft opening is still bringing folks in through the doors, even as employees are still working to fill all the shelves. I went by there and I'm trying to talk my wife into letting me buy a new Traeger. And so we'll see how that goes. And then lastly, I wanted to let folks know that following the recent departure of Chief of Police Ryan Canan, Human Resources is going to start the recruitment for the next Chief of Police starting this week. So we'll keep that open through October 25th, and it'll be posted on various platforms, Cal Chiefs and all that stuff. So that is ongoing as we speak. That's all that I got. Big stuff. I can answer questions if you have anything.
Any questions? Okay, then we have council reports. If there's something pressing you want to announce, go ahead. Otherwise, it has been a long night. I can see Mayor Riddell Harris is falling asleep up there.
You're on
So,
camera.
but anyone, Councilman Holmes?
Well, I probably should have mentioned this during regular public comment, but I wanted to report that the Sacramento Business Journal did a survey of the breweries in the greater Sacramento area, and Crooked Lane Brewing Company here in Auburn is number 2. And I thought I should point that out, that and I don't know whether they stand on the list of businesses' income, but anyway,
Oh, it's
I
not on
think
the list.
they've done a fine job there.
Thank you. Thank you for that piece of very important information. I do appreciate that. Anyone else? Okay, well, with that being said, with this meeting is adjourned.